Hello and welcome to the MHG podcast. It's a new year and we're just doing the same old rubbish because that's what we do. It's miserable out, both in weather, life's miserable. It sucks because we're living in dystopian futures. So we're here to bring you a bit of light, a bit of joy and rebel against 1984. So once again, I'm Bradley, and after that long intro, joined by Stu. Nothing changes. How you doing, Stu?
Well, yeah, I like to think some things change, but I think, you know, it's one of those where I'm really going to push for it this year because I'm just like, I'm fed up. You know, when you get to the stage where you're like, okay, no, I'm not doing this anymore. I sod this. I'm doing new stuff. So, yeah, life changes are afoot. One of the big ones is hopefully moving house this year. So that'll be a huge thing. So I'm trying to, like, keep everything as interesting and exciting as I can, even though, yeah, it's kind of dull, it's kind of depressing, but, you know, that's January.
Yeah, we still want to move. We still want to move to Liverpool again.
Yeah.
Bloody COVID. Also, I missed the opportunity then because now you're the total opposite, because it used to be everything changes but Stu, but now Stu wants to change.
Yeah. It's kind of weird to be felt of as a constant, like an immovable rock.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm kind of... I suppose I'm an emotional rock, I'll take that. I'm not the rock, obviously.
I mean, that'd be cool if you was. I'd ask you, Stu, can you lend me like $quarter of a mil to get a nice house in Liverpool if you was the rock?
I know, right?
If the rock is listening, by the way, do the right thing.
He must be. He's got to be.
Yeah. Yeah, of course he is. He's got to be one of our 30-odd listeners. Got to be.
It makes sense. It makes sense to me.
Couple of things before we get going. One, I think I've got to send my Steam Deck off to Valve. My trackpads have stopped doing haptic-y things.
Oh.
And I didn't think it'd be an issue because I thought, do you know what? Like, the haptics are nice to have. And then I used the trackpad with a dead haptics, and oh boy, you need haptics.
Yeah, good God. Yeah.
Now, but the question is, I've upgraded my drive from a 64 to a 256. Do I take the risk that I will get my one back with fixed trackpads? Or do I change it? Because if I don't change it, they're guaranteed to send me a new system.
I would put you... Have you still got the old one?
Yeah, somewhere.
If you can find it, I'd put the old one in it.
Honestly,
Just
people generally do it, but it's definitely an ADHD thing. I went, this is a crap piece of old technology, but I should keep it in case I ever need to send it back. Flung it somewhere. I don't know where I flung it.
Yeah. Well, I do the same, except, I'll put it in this really clever, safe, easy to access place. But of course, they're only those things if you know where they are and you remember putting them there in the first place.
But that makes them incredibly safe, because when you get broken into and someone goes, "Where's the money?" you go, "Honestly, mate, I genuinely do not know."
Yeah.
Just rip the place apart. I'm not trying to stop you. Rip the place apart. I just don't know where it is.
Yeah. If you find it, you know, give me some, or at least tell me where it was so I can remember for future. That sort of thing.
Yeah. Leave a note that the hidden money is in the fridge or something like that. It's just directions.
Yeah.
Also, as a complete aside, having young children is sometimes good. Right, when you was a bit younger, did you ever watch like crap TV and crap TV movies on like the Disney Channel and stuff?
Well, of course.
Like your Teen Angels and stuff like that. Of course you did.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. Right, and they were brilliant. They're crap, but they're brilliant. We know this. Well, Edith became obsessed with a film trilogy called Zombies.
Right.
Sorry, Z.O.M.B.I.E.S.
Right.
And it's a high school musical type thing, but there's like humans in there, but there's also zombies. But the zombies have things like they don't eat brains, or they do eat brains, but not in a horror way. It's like, now we don't eat brains, and we generally get to live. And it's really badly acted. There's lots of singing and stuff like that. It's, by all intents and purposes, it's bad. But do you know what? I bloody love it.
Yeah.
Edith puts it on, and I'm like, first I was like, oh god, this is going to be rubbish. By now, she's like, oh, Dad, can I put zombies on? I'm like, yeah, go for it. Go for it. It's got some brilliant songs in it. There's a song in there about like how the zombie and the human girl get together and stuff like that, and me and Edith sing it together because it's brilliant.
Nice.
But it's really, really bad, but it's so good. It's really heartwarming as well, because it's about accepting people, or, you know, everyone for who they are and stuff like that. So the first one, the zombies are getting to go to the school and break down barriers and stuff like that. And then in the sequel, there's werewolves, and it's about accepting the werewolves. And then the third one, there's an alien race that joins them and stuff like that. And it's honestly just lovely, but rubbish and brilliant.
I like that. There should be more stuff like that you just get obsessed with that's actually a little bit crap.
Yeah.
I think Mel, my wife, got not obsessed, but she was really into that The Rig that's on Amazon Prime, which is
I've not seen that.
Oh man, it is the most abysmal thing. Even by the end, even she was kind of a little bit like, oh yeah, no, this is tosh. But she was enjoying it because it was so cheesy, and that's the main thing.
Well, that's what I like. When you've got something that's bad, but the characters, the actors, everyone is generally having fun with it, that comes across. Where you've got something that's trying to be good, and it's bad, so The Walking Dead, by the end...
Yes,
that's just like that's a slog. That's tedious, and it's like this is trying to be good, and it's the opposite, because technically it's good. It's well shot, apart from that deer scene, if you know what I'm talking about with the bad CGI. But generally, it's well shot, well acted, storylines make sense, etc., etc., etc. As much sense as zombies can do. I linked that quite well without even thinking about it.
Yeah, but
you kind of watching it going, just this is bad. I can see why people like it, but it's just bad. Whereas this, I'm going, this is bad, but I love it. This is brilliant.
Yeah.
But
of course, you know what else has zombies, don't you?
I do know what else has zombies. TV shows have zombies, Stu.
That's right, they do.
Yeah. But also video games, Stu.
Hey, there we go.
No video games I've been playing, though.
No, nor me.
So, no, I was going to say, what about you? So what have you been?
Yeah, kind of. Well, we'll come to that one later.
Yeah, I've played Stubbs the Zombie.
Yeah, but I forgot.
Yeah.
No, it's...
Go on, what you been playing, Stu? Let's get into it. Start 2023 right.
Well, we'll try. So I've been playing a game called Hubris, or Hubris, depending on where you're from, which is a VR game, a VR adventure sci-fi, where... Yeah, well, it keeps it kind of opaque at the beginning. You're sent to this planet to do some jobs for a corporation. That's pretty much like the basis of it. It's good, nice and lean, gets you there straight away. You land on this planet and you've got to kind of, walk around, do some objectives. The game so far is like there are hostile alien organisms that you have to occasionally fight off, and the rest of it is kind of puzzle adventure stuff, physically manipulating the scenery and stuff. So far, so sort of half-life Alex, but nowhere near as good. What it does well, though, is it has the kind of a lot of the sort of, not tropes, but characteristics of a lot of kind of adventure VR games. So, you can, you have your regular platforming bits, which are good, and kind of slightly zero-G bits, sorry. And you have your manipulating objects with your controllers that feels like you're doing it in real life, and that's all very good. But what it does have as well, it has a full underwater system. And I've not played a VR game, I'm not sure if there are any, but I've not played one that is pretty much 50% land and 50% water. So when you're in the water, you use actual swimming motions to swim. Obviously, much curtailed. You don't have to fling your arms about. You can do them comparatively small. But yeah, you manipulate the environment, the water, by moving your hands around and swim. And it's really good. It works really, really well. And it allows for some stuff that obviously the land-based stuff doesn't do. So that gives it a little bit of an air of mystery. The graphics are different. There's a nice filter over it when you're underwater that doesn't stop you seeing, but it's obviously different from when you're on land. And it is immersive, because of course it's water. So yeah, it's so far it's not amazing. It's very, very good though, and it is. It got a lot of hype in the VR community because it's quite ambitious and the graphics are really quite good. They're like fairly high end, and there haven't been a lot of those recently. A lot of them have been sort of upscaled ports of Quest games, so they've not looked, they've looked fine, but they've not been built from the ground up for PC. So it's nice to get something like that. It's a good adventure game so far, and I like the physics. So yeah, it's a thumbs up so far on that one.
Yeah, it's the one that I nearly got you code for, but too late, weren't it?
That's the one.
Yes, it's it looks interesting, so it's good to know that at least like even though you paid for it, it wasn't a waste of money in the end. There's stuff there to enjoy.
Don't get me wrong, I'm still bitter about it, but yeah.
But I would have felt really bad had you have got it and God, this is dreadful.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm glad you're enjoying it. I like looking at it. When I saw the description of it, etc., it's one that I went, oh, that makes me want to pop Lucas's Oculus onto Steam and give it a go.
Yeah.
But I probably still won't get round to it because it's just those extra couple of steps that make me go, nah, I've got a Steam Deck here. I could pick that up.
Yeah.
I'll go have 2 weeks without a Steam Deck at some point, so interesting. It looks really good. I like the aesthetic of it, the setting of it all seems good. So yeah, so I'm glad you're liking that one.
Yeah. That level of game hasn't come along for quite some time, so it's nice to see they're still being made. I'm really interested in what happens with PSVR 2. I can't afford to buy a PSVR 2, but I'm interested to see what happens with it.
What about the new Hive or Hive? No, not Hive. Vive. That was shown at CES. That's over $1,000.
Well, yeah, in an ideal world, yeah, but it's like, where's the commitment to the games? Is there any real value in having a PC headset that's really expensive when you're kind of scrabbling around for games and most of them are ports, and the Oculus Store is really expensive, and for them at the moment, the best thing about PC gaming is the fact that there's a community that's turning a lot of games into VR, flat screen to VR as they're calling it, and they've just recently cracked getting the Unreal Engine, Unreal Engine 4, so that they can do that. Now that opens up pretty much every game released in the last sort of 4 or 5 years if it's brought to fruition. So that would be amazing. So
these headsets aren't cheap enough for you to go, I can have a couple to cover different platforms and stuff like that.
Precisely.
Yeah, so I mean, if I'm looking at one, I would be looking at one that I know I can at least use on Steam.
Yeah, I think the best. That's why. Yeah, I want to see what PSVR 2 does, because it will push some really attractive games that are quite powerful. That's great. I want to see what that does with Quest and how those two battle it out, because Quest is definitely the best option at the moment because there's the portability, and you can also connect it to a PC and play all the big games cheap as well. And comparatively, yeah, it's not a grand.
You're looking at the Oculus. It's a new console essentially that you just wear on your head, and 300 odd quid for one of the models is a price where, like, when Lucas said that's what he wants for his birthday and Christmas, I was like, okay, I can do that. We can work that one out. If he'd have turned around and went, I want a HTC Vive, I'd be like, you could go out and earn that money. Turn tricks, bud, because there's no way I can afford that otherwise.
Totally.
But moving on, I've been playing a game that's, I don't know if it would work in VR. Might do one day, who knows. It's a roguelite, but bear with me here. City builder game called Against the Storm, which I got at Christmas, and I immediately sunk 25 odd hours into it, and became absolutely addicted. And the reason I became addicted to this one, it does all the usual things you expect from a city builder and resource management. So you have to build like places for your little people to live. You then need to build things that allow you to expand. You have to get everything working in harmony together. You have to sometimes get things happen that you've got to work to sort of like survive those and prevent things getting worse. You get more people, they consume more food, so you've got to find more food, you need more houses, all the usual stuff with a city builder. But what I like about this in particular is when I play a city builder, whether it's City Skylines, whether it's the Civ games, anything like that, I get to a point where I go, I can't manage this any further, there's too much for me to manage, so I start again.
Yeah.
And that's what the prize of this game is. So you kind of get this overall thing. So there's this central area, and there's this circling storm that comes around and destroys everything. And like the central area that uses all the resources, all like these little villages these settlements that you build to survive. It takes all the resources from those and then uses that to survive the storm. So the more you build out and the more settlements you end up building, the better. Like the more you survive, the more points you get, etc., etc. Whatever the story is behind it, I don't really care about the story too much. What I love, though, is you basically start out and you build a village and you've got to get X amount of points. So you've got like 14 points you've got to get to, which should then seem relatively simple, but at the same time, there's like the leader, like the queen of this central area, has an impatience score as well, so that's ticking up. So you might do things such as have your beavers who are good at chopping down wood. You might have those out and about chopping wood at night when the storm's going over, and that increases her impatience. And if that gets to 14 points before your overall score gets to 14 points, you lose. But if you get to 14 points, you win. And then you start to earn. So each little run, each little settlement you build is a new game. So there's your roguelite element. And then once the queen, like enough time passes, the overall game reset. So there's your second base of roguelite element. But you could get various upgrades that are permanent across everything. So you might suddenly unlock a certain type of housing that's available from the start. You haven't got to unlock with blueprints. It's just there and you can use it. You get different upgrades, paths. You might get that all your workers work 10% faster with another upgrade, etc., etc. So the idea is the more you play, the more settlements you can build, the quicker you can get to those good scores. And the balance of this game is absolutely spot on, because at no point have I got to it and gone, I've totally lost control now, that's it, I'm done. Because even if you lose, you go, all right, it's fine, I'll start again on a new village, and that will do it. And you're learning, and you still get some upgrade points, and you got the really good like upgrade tree, and then you pick where you want to go, and there's certain elements that will work for or against you, different types of landscape that you have to do. So each game feels very, very different as well. But it's concentrated. So you could do a village anywhere between half an hour to an hour and a half. And you could do one a day, two a day. You can play it all day, all night. And it's just, honestly, it's wonderful. It is an ADHDer's dream of a city builder. Absolutely love this. Came out back end of last year, still in early access, and I just can't wait to see where this goes.
Oh, very good. I mean, doing jobs and that with some capricious boss deciding whether or not they're happy with what you've done sounds way too much like real life for my job for me. But, you know, as a city builder, it sounds pretty good.
Oh, it is. It's the best one I've played. In terms of, for me. So, it's probably not the best city builder. You know, you're looking at the likes of like City Skylines and stuff like that, because they're genuine like full-on city builders. But as I said, this is brilliant because it doesn't insult you, and it does all the city building stuff, all the resource management stuff, all that really well, but condenses it all into a system where you're doing all the fun bits and not just the tedium, just going, right, now I'm just waiting. Because that's always the point I got to, where it's like you're waiting, nothing's growing, and things are getting worse and you don't know why. And what this also has, and this is what I really like, you could be at a point where it looks like all hope has gone on this level, but there's always a way to pull it back. And it has some really tense moments for a city builder. You get to a lot of city builders and you go, I've buggered this now, ain't I? That's 16,000 hours down the drain. Time to start again. Whereas this is, bugger this up, half hour. All right, let's go.
Sweet. So it's early access, you said?
Yeah.
But would you recommend people buy it now or wait until it gets its 1.0 release?
Right. It's the most feature-complete early access game I've ever played.
Nice.
That's all I can say about it. That's what it is. It's, I don't think I've played anything as close to this in terms of feature completedness. If they release this as is, I think it would go down really well. But they're not happy with where it's at yet. They want to do more. They've just added a custom mode where you can basically set up your own custom rules on a settlement build and play that to practice, which is really, really good. I would it's got a daily challenge, which I'm not too keen on at the moment because it's basically an entire thing, daily challenge, so that would take a good few hours. What I'd like to see them do is a settlement of the day, so everyone gets the exact same settlement, plays it, and you get scored based on how well you've done, or something like that, or how quick can someone get to 14 points. And then have leaderboards for that kind of thing. But, okay, it's early access. As a game, as a single-player game, I think, it's if they released this and said it wasn't early access, you go, yeah, that's really, really good.
Cool. Well, sounds like one for the fans, definitely.
Yes, that's what we're here for, the fans.
Of course.
So what's next?
Rock fans.
Rock fans, yeah. Buy my house. Buy me a house. I haven't got a house to sell. Buy my house, Rock.
Well, the next stuff I've been playing, so I had a very big sort of VR journey, adventure style thing, because it was like you saying earlier, when you've got to make a special effort to get something out, you tend to go all in on it for a while. So I played two things that I'll talk about together because they're both older. The first one is Res Infinite, which in VR is just so good. It's almost like what VR was invented for me. It's just the best. And I played it on PSVR a few years ago, and it was okay on that. But the controls weren't the greatest with the wands, and the visuals were a bit mucky, a bit blurry. On the PSVR, on the what's the Rift? I forgot what I had on the Rift 2 that I've got. They're just absolutely pin sharp and beautiful, and it's just such an amazing game. It works perfectly, and if you've got a VR headset, you've just got to own it. It's for me, it's the best converted game in VR that's ever been made. Probably ones I've not played, but yeah, as opposed to native VR. The second one, talking of that, I've been playing a VR conversion of Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus, which I never played. I played the Old Blood, but I hadn't played New Colossus. And it seems like a good enough game. It's obviously an FPS. It's a little bit like Killzone, sort of. It's less weighty, but it's still in that style. It's a good VR conversion. It doesn't stutter or anything, and the controls are all correct and all of that, so that's great. The only problem, and it's a fairly big one for me at least, is that aiming is with the headset, and I've never liked games that are headset aiming, because you have to move your head constantly and quickly to move the reticle. Now, I can understand why they've done it, because obviously you have to move the camera, and if you were moving the camera with the sticks, whilst your head was in a different position, it would probably knock you sick really, really quickly.
Yeah.
But it's not ideal because, you're having to whip your head around like a lot, and then you're trying to keep it very, very still so the reticle's like staying in one place.
That's got to be the next big advancement, I think, on VR is eye tracking built in.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Because it's one of the things when I've played racing games in VR, you've got to physically turn your head to kind of look at where you can usually look out of your peripheral vision. That's enough to take you out of it to a degree. Whereas if you could do that, it could track you looking, and you could do that reticle, so you can move maybe your body and everything as you need to do, but you can actually move with your eyes and look at things with your eyes, and that the reticle can pick that up. I think that's going to be game changing for VR.
It would be absolutely amazing. I really hope they can get there with it. I'll have to have a look into it and see when.
Yeah,
when it's likely.
Technology is really, really good. I tried it on American Truck Simulator a good few years back using a bog standard webcam, and it was really good. Surprisingly good. It was just like, the software was a bit awkward to use and stuff like that, but once set up, really good, and that wasn't even on good hardware. So, I can imagine it's something they can do. And we've seen now, you can pop cameras into phones that are hidden behind the phone screen. So it's not going to be too invasive either. So it's all doable. But, hopefully at some point.
Absolutely. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. But yeah.
Sorry to hijack your
not at all.
adventure.
No. It's really interesting. So I'm going to have a quick go of Wolfenstein in 2D and just see what I think, just in regular flat screen, and see what I think of it as a game. But it's pretty good so far.
I didn't like it.
So
I like the original Wolfenstein. I really liked the 1994, 93 release.
On the PC.
Yeah.
Oh, it was about. What was it, 91, 92? Because it was before Doom.
It was before Doom, BD, yeah.
BD.
There you go, that's a new... There we go, now we've invented something, a new calendar.
Nice.
BD, and it could be AD, works then.
Oh, that's true, it does.
There you go, before Castle Wolfenstein and after Doom. There you go. There's the new calendar. What year are we in now then?
Well... What was it? What was your point going to be about Wolfenstein?
Oh yeah, Wolfenstein. So I enjoyed the original Wolfenstein back in the early 90s. There you go. That could have saved us 5 minutes. I enjoyed the original one, and then I don't think I played. Was there one like in the early 2000s, like on late 90s, that was like fully 3D and something? I didn't get on with that one at all.
Return to Castle Wolfenstein.
Yeah, I didn't like that. I know some people did. I didn't. Then Wolfenstein came out, the modern remake one, and I really enjoyed that. But I've not really enjoyed any of the sequels. And Wolfenstein 2, I just found crap. I just honestly did not like it at all. The only thing I did like, and the reason I tried it, was it pissed off Nazis and Nazi sympathisers.
Yeah.
Who went, you can't be mean to the Nazis. Well, you can. And they went, we don't care what Nazis think, punch a Nazi. So...
Yeah.
They deserve. I think I bought it at the time. They deserve my money just for that. Game was a bit crap.
Yeah, fair play. I mean, it's difficult to judge when you're playing it in VR because you're constantly trying to. Because it's not designed for VR, you're constantly kind of learning new stuff about what the best movement is and all that kind of caper. So yeah, I'll have a go of it.
A novelty factor always adds. A novelty factor will add a couple of points to a game score. Always.
Yeah. True.
But moving on, away from Nazis, and away from VR, and away from Wolfensteins, I've been playing what is, quite frankly, one of the most wholesome, cutest, glorious little games I will play all year. And what are we, how many days? 12 days into 2023. This is sitting right up there as going to need some shifting as my game of the year. Lil Gator game. Is just a joyful homage to being a kid and growing up. So basically, you play this little boy alligator And it starts off about him and his sister playing like adventure game in the park together, based on being like a hero. So, like, basically, it's pretending to be a bit Zelda-ish, especially a bit Breath of the Wild-ish. And you kind of get these, like, you make papercraft. Like, you use a stick as a sword, and you make like your shield out of paper, and then they make enemies out of cardboard and stuff like that. You go round and you get things such as, like, it tells you about, like, you get a climbing mechanic, so you can only climb so far, and you get like the Breath of the Wild climbing meter come up, which is really cool. And then you can use it a little bit later on. It tells you about a T-shirt you can get, and you can use that to float distances. So it really riffs off Breath of the Wild, but not in a we're just trying to be Breath of the Wild way. Everything is small scale, low poly, and it's basically going, look, we love Zelda, so it's a cute nod to this. And when I first started playing it, I was like, this is really cool, but it's just going to be a bit Breath of the Wild, isn't it? It goes, no, it's not. It uses that as a couple of base mechanics and then does its own thing. So essentially, you go around this island and you get quests off your friends. And the idea is, like, your sister has grown up. She's gone off to, like, university or college or whatever, and she's too busy to play with you. She's gone to the park with you, but she's just sitting doing her coursework on her computer. But you're like, but I really want you to come and play with me, big sis. You know, please come and play with me. She's like, I don't have time for playing. So you then devise this plan. You get all your friends together and go, if we show her how fun it is to play, she'll come and play. You do these things. She's like, no, I don't want to. So you go bigger and better. And there's this, like, playground area. And you can, like, the idea is you want to convert it into this massive, like, adventure area. With enemies and castles and stuff like that, all made out of cardboard. So you go round. Some of your friends don't want to do it because they go, you get over it. We've got other things to do. You go and convince them by doing all their little quests, and it's just so fun. It's over in about 4 hours, the game, but it's this wonderful story about not having to grow up, but at the same time, it's also about learning when to let go as well, and opening your eyes to what's around you and things like that. And it is just so joyful in so many ways, but with such a deep message as well. Honestly, I didn't know what I was expecting from this game. I got a code for it. I was expecting something from it. I was expecting it to be like just a cutesy 3D platformer, but it goes way beyond that, and it is, it's just stunning. And I think coming out as late as it did, I think it will damage how many people get to play it. But, you know, if this ends up in a Humble Bundle or something down the line, it will get a renaissance to it. It is just the most wonderfully beautiful game, perfect experience to sort of like perk you up a bit on a miserable opening couple of weeks, January and stuff like that. Just amazing. Just I will say this to anyone, right? It's 16 quid, right, at the moment on Steam. Get it. It might only be 4 or 5 hours long, depending on how quickly you can play through things. Does not matter. This is worth it. The developers deserve every penny. It is wonderful. It is brilliant. Just get this game.
Well, you've sold me. You've definitely sold me on it. I'm going to get it. I've seen it. It looks like the graphic style of the Wind Waker, which is just an amazing style. Anyway, you know, it's one that you're happy to be copied because it's really, really gorgeous. So
you've nailed it. It's got the art style of Wind Waker, but with the pastel shading of Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, lovely, really lovely. But yeah, now you've told me the gameplay's just as good as the visuals. I'm in.
And it's right. So the only complaints I've seen about it, because I was like, "This is perfect." I wonder what everyone else is saying about it, and that's generally the view. Some people have said like, there's no map, so it's very hard to find things, or it's quite easy to get lost. Right now, as someone with ADHD, that should bug me. Do you know what? I did not care one iota, because there's always something to do, something to find. Whether that is a new person to give you a little side quest. And these side quests last 20 seconds, generally. Yeah. We're not talking long Witcher 3 style side quests. They're like, there's one like bit later in the game, and there's this like person going around and going, no, all my little brothers, they're all running around, I can't get them under control. You basically got to find them, and they're all running around in this little area, right, a tiny little area. You've got to run up to them, press a button and go, do this, go over there with your sister, and do that 3 times. Takes about 20 to 30 seconds, and you get rewarded. There's always little things like that going on. And the more that you do, the more they go, I'll come and play in your park later. And you get more and more people to come and play in your park. And, you know, it's just, there's pots you have to sort of break, and you get, confetti from it. You use confetti to buy upgrades and new skins and stuff like that. All the monsters give you confetti, and the monsters are just cardboard, and there's loads of little bits. You just go, I can hit this, I can hit this, I can hit that, I can do that. There's loads of different mechanics with it. There's a giant whale for some reason at some point that shoots you up in the air. It's brilliant. I don't know what that is, but it's wonderful. And it's just constant. So I did not care about a map. I think if this game had a map, it'd lose something. And it's just all about discovery, and it's brilliant, beautiful, wonderful. And I will continue to beat the drum of this one for the rest of 2023.
Marvellous. Good. I'm going to get that one. Definitely happening.
But that's it for me. That's all I've played, those 2 games. Well, I had Civilization 6. I decided to... I've had Civilization 6 for a number of years for some reason, probably for a bundle or something.
Yeah.
And I've never got round to playing it, but I'm really finding myself enjoying 4X games at the moment, and builder games and stuff like that. So I've been playing that. I'll talk about that more next week.
Cool.
Have you got any more games, or can I do a bit of a finish off with stuff?
I've got a fairly big one, actually.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I have got a big one. And that big one is named... Steve, no, it's named the Callisto Protocol. So, yes. So, I did a straight swap for God of War Ragnarok.
And has the person you traded with stopped laughing yet?
Value is in the eye of the beholder.
Yes.
But, no, so yeah, I did a straight swap PS5 for Ragnarok. Yeah. And yeah, it runs, I'm going to say a lot of things about the game. Many of them are negative. But the important thing to remember is I like it. I like this game, despite what I say. So, first off, it's the PS5 version. It runs beautifully. So, none of the PC problems. Is absolutely flawless. It's over 60 frames per second, over 60. I'm not sure exactly what it's running at, but it's really good. Totally smooth. Never falters. The graphics are absolutely stunning. They're really brilliant and so atmospheric. So there's a lot of kind of gameplay wrinkles that will put people off, and the main thing being that it's a throwback, and it's a throwback before Dead Space. So there's features in Dead Space, which is from 2008, I want to say.
Yeah.
It's
game, PS360 era, isn't it? So
it is, yeah. But it has features that this doesn't, which is a little bit crazy, and some features that you'd expect. So I'm going to run through a list of all the problems that the game has, right? So these are not minor niggles. These are like quite big things. So first off, there's no map. The levels are designed in a way that they're not very big, so that's okay. So it's not easy to get lost, but you can get lost. Secondly, there's no clicking the stick to show a line on the floor like you could with Isaac, Dead Space, showing where your next objective was, which they made even better in Dead Space 2. Nope, they haven't got that. There's no quick turnaround. Now, I don't think there was in the Dead Space games, but there were in all the subsequent Resident Evil games, and it showed why it was so important, because it's not about combat. It's not about making the game easier. It's about, when you're doing the non-combat things, making moving around more enjoyable. And they haven't put that in. And that's a big miss. Next is, I really like the combat, but the feedback of how and when to dodge and when to hit isn't obvious. It's a combat system that needed, for player feedback, it needed another 6 months in the oven. I think it really did. It's really good when it clicks, but then again, only really when you've upgraded your stuff. And that's my next complaint, in that the upgrades don't come around quickly enough. So they deliberately make it hard for you to upgrade, which is fine to keep the challenge level up. But they also don't introduce new weapons, and all the weapons feel the same. So if you don't like the initial weapons, you're not going to like the game, basically. Give up early on. I do. It's a really unusual thing, and you know me, I like it when developers swing for the fences, do something a little bit unusual, even if it doesn't fully work. And this doesn't fully work, but I like what they tried. So it's like it's basically all melee, and it's basically all dodging and then counter attack, and I really like that. And even though it's not been done brilliantly, it's still fun for me. So yeah, it's got a lot of problems. A lot of them were solved by Dead Space, ironically enough, but it's got an amazing atmosphere. The story is good, the acting is great, the graphics are fantastic. It plays in nice short chunks. You see new environments constantly. It has a great sense of place. So the lighting and the sort of mist effects and all of those kind of environmental effects are really excellent. So they draw you in, and there's snow and there's rain and there's all sorts. There's a real attention to detail. I like the movement. So like when you drop off like a crate, you know, and you're climbing down, you climb down. You don't just drop like most characters do in video games.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of good. There's a lot of bad. It's obviously going to be a 6 out of 10 game, even 5 for a lot of people. But if it clicks, it's one of those destined to be like a cult favourite. I'm not going to say cult classic, but a cult favourite. And I'm probably going to be part of that cult.
Fair enough. I'm still with me. If I see it for a $5, I'll pick it up and give it a go. But aside from that, I've already been put off, but I'm glad. Again, it's what I love. We don't plan this, Stu. Right? This is a good point out. I think we might have meetings. We don't plan any of this. But as I was saying about zombies earlier, it doesn't have to be good to be good. As long as you find enjoyment in something, that's all that matters. And again, Callisto Protocol is inherently a bad game. But if you're able to get enjoyment from that, regardless, that's all that matters.
I agree. I wouldn't say it's a bad game.
So obviously they don't set out to make a bad game. It's not trying to be a funny game or anything like that, is it? But
yeah, it's because it's made so many mistakes, and there's so much more that needs doing, and there's some baffling omissions. It makes it kind of mediocre for a lot of people. It's such a shame as well, because there's obviously so much talent behind it and so much thought gone into it, and it really is quite baffling that some things are left out, and you can only think, okay, well, that must be because they didn't have the time, which of course is because they didn't have the money, and that sort of thing. And that part of it is a real shame. They didn't do themselves any favours with it being so hyped, because it's even if they did everything they wanted perfectly, it would still be a niche game. It would still be a Soma. It would still be Amnesia. It would still be that The Thing game. It would always only ever be of that kind of calibre. It was never going to be more than that.
Yeah.
I don't mean that as a criticism. I mean that in a good way. But it was never going to be God of War Ragnarok. And it was never going to be... Because even Dead Space was a sleeper hit, comparatively.
Yeah.
It was well advertised, but it was still kind of a bit of a surprise. So this was the inverse of that. It was like... Dead Space was like... Not much build-up, but everybody who played it loved it. And this is kind of the inverse, unfortunately.
See, it leads me to actually something we'll talk about more at some point this year, I reckon. one of the phrases that I really dislike seeing when someone's talking about a new game is from the developers of, when it's clearly not.
Yeah.
Let me rephrase that. I'm not saying the people who made Callisto Protocol did not work on the Dead Space series. What I'm saying is, what role did they have in that development team? Because I think that's important. If you're talking about one of the main people behind it, the creative side of it, or the people who've done the real technical work, then do you know what? Fine. But if you were someone and you worked on Dead Space and it was your first role out in college, you shouldn't be able to say, we're making this game and I work, from the developers of Dead Space or from the developers of X game.
Yes.
I think there needs to be more clarity with that, because I think that has missold the game to a degree. Turn around and just say, look, we're a small indie team. We're paying homage to what's one of our favourite games of all time. Some of us have had a bit of experience with the genre, whatever. Just something, a bit more punchy the way I'm describing it, obviously. But be a bit more honest about it. And then people will be more forgiving. But they basically missold it by going, from the people behind Dead Space, here's Dead Space that, EA aren't making. And everyone went, oh, yeah, that's what we want. And basically they dug themselves a hole they couldn't get out of. Whereas if they'd have let this come out of nowhere, I reckon people would have played it and gone, do you know what? Yeah, it's not quite Dead Space. It's not quite as good as Dead Space. But I can see where this is going. I'm willing to give something else a chance. Whereas now, people have gone, but it's not Dead Space. They promised us Dead Space from the people behind Dead Space, and it's just not.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like what, I don't know, Dark Souls, what Demon's Souls is to Sekiro. It's clearly the same type of intent, but deliberately going off at a tangent. It's not supposed to be, a spiritual sequel to Dead Space by any stretch of the imagination. It shares genetics, it shares a familial bond with Dead Space, but it's not really anything like it in gameplay.
No.
Yeah, but no, it would have been better if it was released with lower fanfare and allowed to build an audience. But of course, to do that, they would have had to have got the PC version right, which was an absolute shit show.
So I'm guessing it wouldn't run well on a deck.
No, I can tell you that it doesn't, because I bought the game on PC and refunded it because I was just curious about how it ran. You can barely get 20 frames per second out of it. It just judders the entire way, and that's with it. It's so CPU bound, and they haven't. One of the big problems that they made for themselves is they didn't utilize different threads and cores for CPUs, so it's bound to like one core on your CPU. So they've clearly focused on the consoles and gone for I think maybe 4 threads, 2 cores or something. But yeah, it's not designed for the PC at all. And I don't think they're going to be able to fix it for the PC. I think they'll probably get it so it's acceptable.
Yeah.
But it's never going to be very good. So I would steer clear of that. And then if you get a modern console in down the line, in the next sort of 5 years or so, maybe get it really cheap then and play it on that.
Yeah, okay, maybe not even for a $5 then.
Not on PC, no.
So, moving on, and this is what I just want to finish on this because you know me, Stu, I'm a handheld gamer. I think I came out as a handheld gamer at some point last year. Realised I much prefer handheld gaming over any other kind of gaming.
Yeah.
But Steam Deck just solidified that. And I said about how I felt the Switch was it actually felt really flimsy with the detachable Joy-Cons, and I found it really uncomfortable to hold and stuff like that. I'm now tempted at some point to get a Switch Lite, and it's thanks to the Retroid Pocket 3 Plus. I have got my Retro Pocket 3 Plus, and it's my very first Android-based handheld, retro handheld. So it requires a lot of tinkering and stuff like that, which is brilliant because that's always the best part of trying to build a retro setup, is the tinkering side of it. And then you get to the point where you've got to play the games and you're like, oh...
Yeah, that's true.
I don't just want to sit and enjoy my stuff. I want to fiddle. I'm still in the fiddling stage, so it's really good. I've been playing a couple of bits as well, though. It's a really nice little system, really comfortable to hold, and it's just an Android device, so you can stick things like Netflix on there, all the game streaming services, all that goes on there really, really well. But it feels like it's designed to look a bit like a Switch Lite. But it's a bit smaller, so I'd say it's about the size of a Vita, but designed like a Switch Lite. And it is so comfortable to hold. Really surprising, because I've had like some of the Ambidix before, and because they've got shoulder buttons that are across rather than stack, they're a bit awkward to hold. And they're big, they're chunky, and like in the wrong way at times. It's still really, really good, but they get a bit uncomfortable. This, though, stacked shoulder buttons with analog triggers, well-positioned analog sticks, buttons feel good, the D-pad feels good. It's smoothed out, so it's not square, it's rounded around the edges and stuff like that, so it feels really good to hold. Really nice screen on it. A decent interior, so you can emulate everything up to Dreamcast, PSP, GameCube really well. I'm having a couple of issues with my GameCube set up at the moment, but I'll get there when I get round to it. And it can do some PS2. So overall, a really good system to have. But I'm just really, really impressed with this thing. My very first foray into Android emulation. And it's just so good. And what's the bonus to it? Because it's Android, obviously you can play any Android games on it as well. So, I believe like Shredder's Revenge has just been released as part of the Netflix subscription for Android for free.
Yes, for free.
So I can just pop that on as well if I really fancied it. And then I've got Shredder's Revenge. I can play Shredder's Revenge on the go, forgetting I've got it on the Steam Deck anyway. But it's kind of like that whole kind of, okay. But all of a sudden, it opens up, because this is Android. I've never been one for going, I want to get one of those Razer Edges or whatever, or Ishis, or I don't know what they're called, where you attach a controller to your phone. They just feel wrong. I don't know what it is. It's a me thing. They just feel wrong.
I agree.
And my phone's my phone. My gaming systems are my gaming systems. And even though this is basically a phone, it's not. It's a gaming system, because that's what's set up as. There's no like cool functionality on it or anything like that. So I'm not even going, but this is a phone. And because all the controls are built in as standard and it's an all-in-one unit, it just feels good. All of a sudden, I'm going, well, there's so many Android games that I can now play, because I can play them touchscreen, but I can also play them with controls as well. And it's just a brilliant piece of software. Now, what I will say is they did do a bit of a scummy thing with the release of this, because it came out only a couple of months after the Retroid Pocket 3, and improved everything for about 20 quid more, which I think is a bit of a crappy tactic. But if you're like me, you didn't buy a Retroid Pocket 3 at the time, then you're laughing. But I think they should do something for people who built the 3, but they're a China-based company. They know they're going to sell loads of these. They probably don't give a flying rat's ass. But as a system, I'm now going down the line of, okay, I was going to be exclusively Linux. I'm now going, okay, I'm looking forward to more of these Android ones. And it's another one into the collection that is brilliant.
That is interesting. Yeah, I got a little handheld thing a little while ago, a couple of years ago, that was Android based, and I was impressed with what you could do with it for how old it was. I mean, old in like 4 years or something. That's a good proposition, but right, okay.
Go on.
If you've got a Steam Deck, is it actually worth getting one?
Yes.
Why?
Because 1, it's smaller. 2, mine's yellow. And 3, I love my Steam Deck. But if I'm going for a coffee, it's like packing to go, it's like you're packing to go to the airport having to take a Steam Deck. I love it. It's big. I love that it's big. It feels brilliant. But you've got to make a conscious effort to take it with you. Whereas this, you can fling it in your pocket. It's basically it's small, so it's actually portable in terms of pocket device, but big enough that you're not compromised with your gameplay in any way. And yeah, it is purely retro, or Android gaming, which the Steam Deck doesn't do Android gaming.
Yep.
And if I'm being totally honest, do I really want to play Sonic the Hedgehog 2 on my Steam Deck, blown up, when I've got something else I could just pick up and go to it straight away? This is the Steam Deck is there, and I've got like a collection of retro stuff on there, but I'm finding myself using it for PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3 and stuff like that, rather than 16-bit, 8-bit and even some 32-bit games. So for that alone, having the extra device is really, really good.
Cool. Yeah, no, that sounds really good. And what's the recommended retail price for it? Because,
So it's advertised. It's a bit of a bugger, because it's like when you look around, it says like $150, which should convert to what, 135 quid, which is bargainous. The problem is when I've looked around at prices. Now I got mine as a review unit. The problem is UK base. You're looking at nearly 200 quid.
Right.
Because they're very difficult to get hold of and they're always out of stock. So if you go to like a Droix or something like that, you could get an equivalent Ambidec, for example, for a much lesser price because they're easier to get. But that being said, this is the best of those devices that I've ever touched. So my current setup that I've got going at the moment generally is Steam Deck for 95% of my gaming. Now the Retroid Pocket for most of my retro gaming. But I've also got an Ambidec RG353V, which is like a Game Boy styled one. And I use that for my what is original handheld gaming. So like your Game Boy, Game Gear, etc., etc. And yeah, I think that's a really good setup, because there's something about playing Game Boy games on a horizontal system feels wrong.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So having that vertical system, even if it's just for Game Boy games, which if Nintendo just released the Game Boy Mini or whatever, with all their stuff, then grand. But until then, I would highly recommend picking up like a Power Kiddie or an Ambidec vertical device for Game Boy games alone. And then stick an entire library on there. And then one of these for everything else. So the way I would put it is an Ambidec vertical or Power Kiddie vertical for handheld. The Retroid Pocket or similar for retro home consoles. And then Steam Deck for everything else.
Very cool. Nice.
But I'll bring it with me at the weekend and I'll show you mine.
Wow. Yeah, no, so yeah, me and Brad are meeting up on the weekend, so yeah, very good.
Yeah, Stu's buying me coffee.
I know, because I'm a nice guy. I'm an emotional rock. Remember? It's
either that or he's got a rupee it, one of the two.
Yeah, one of the two.
Who knows?
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
If Stu's the only one here next week, you know what's happened.
Exactly. Nowhere to point your finger of blame.
No. But yeah, I'm looking forward to a weekend away. Hopefully we get past Toddington services this time.
Good luck.
Yeah. I don't think like Missy Bokers will be happy if we have to call her again and go, can you send a car? I would never do that, by the way. I would never expect that ever again to happen. But yeah, we're doing that. We're going to meet Stu. We're meeting some friends that we haven't seen for 10, 15 years properly. We fell out of touch with. Edith is seeing one of her friends she's made at football. And then on the Sunday, we're going to Manchester, Lee, to watch the Manchester United women versus Liverpool women game. And Edith's getting to go on the supporters coach. We're all going on the supporters coach, actually. So that's going to be really fun. Can't wait. Really busy weekend. Sweet. Yeah, sounds great. And I don't know. By the time we get back, it'll be like, yeah, we definitely got to move again. Because that's the only problem with going back to Liverpool. Every time we go, we have to move back. Oh, it's a great place. It really is. So either, unless Dwayne The Rock Johnson's listening, if he's not listening, if anyone knows any landlords in Liverpool, that want to give someone a place without, having to worry about the credit checks and stuff like that. We've always paid our rent, but goes, yeah, do you know what? I've got a spare property. You can come and live in it for whatever rent you're paying now. Then, do you know what? Let us know. Okay? That's all I ask. Either The Rock buys me a house or a Scouse landlord is listed. One of the two. It's not too much.
Yeah. Well, one of them's bound to happen, aren't they?
Yeah, so, I mean, The Rock's more likely, I'd imagine.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Definitely. I'm sure he's a big fan.
We could buy your house, give it to me, and then you get your move.
There you go. House swap.
Yeah, there you go. Sweet. Or I'll put a bid for your house in. I can only afford a tenner at the moment, so if you're accepting that, then that's good.
Well, we rent, so you'd have to speak to the landlord, who isn't The Rock, unfortunately.
I don't know why I thought you owned. Oh, get out of there. Rent's bad.
That's the plan.
I'm not going to go on to a thing about why private landlords are bad and why they stop people actually being able to own homes, because we went long last week and I don't want to go overly long this week. So, do you know what I'm going to do, Stu?
What are you going to do?
I'm going to shut up now.
Okie dokie. And on the rock point, the point of the rock point, I don't know. What could you call it? The promontory that is the rock. We shall leave it there, and yes, as usual, make sure you're looking after yourselves. Follow us on all the socials, join our Discord if you want to talk about any subject, including video games or mental health. And in the meantime, until next week, stay safe and stay sane.